Hi, I'm Cynthia Izaguirre in Dallas, and here are your headlines from North Texas. The University of North Texas is losing its head football coach to Oklahoma State. Our sources say this deal has been in the works for a couple of weeks now, and Eric Morris will finish out his third season at North Texas. It is a huge loss for the Mean Green, who are in the midst of a stellar season and still very much in the mix for a berth in the college football playoffs. They're ranked in the top 25 for the first time in decades and are 10-1 heading into Friday's game against Temple. We're learning new details about the death of a little baby, as well as the two adults now facing charges. Matt Howerton has the affidavit, and we will warn you, these allegations are hard to hear.
On Huddleston Drive in Grand Prairie, a quiet house sits with little movement. Only a torn strand of police tape on a nearby pole, the last sign of a call that began with a 1-year-old who wasn't breathing early Friday morning. In court documents, officers wrote they found him unconscious, marked by bruises a child should never wear. The little boy was pronounced dead at a hospital around 2 a.m.
After the child was pronounced dead, the case shifted to an interview room, and according to newly filed court documents, that's where the child's mother and boyfriend described abuse so graphic it gave detectives little doubt as to what happened.
In her affidavit, 20-year-old Susana Pasares Nunez told detectives she witnessed her boyfriend, 23-year-old Fernando Vega Diaz, start to abuse the child after moving in together in late October, that he would hit the child in the face, hit the child with a cable and in the abdomen, leaving visible marks, that she saw him smothering the child's mouth and nose with his hand and blanket, causing difficulty breathing, adding she once watched him choking the child with a hand around his neck, that she was afraid to report the abuse in fear of her own life. Detectives wrote that Vega Diaz admitted his own violence to them, all because the infant would never stop crying or yelling. Both Pasares Nunez and Vega Diaz face first-degree felony charges for injury to a child causing death. A child without a voice, and a case that now has to give him one. In Grand Prairie, I'm Matt Howerton.
Both suspects are being held on an immigration detainer. We are working to learn what that means for their case. Authorities in Georgia have suspended their search for SMU professor Charles Husch. He was last seen about 2 weeks ago hiking the Appalachian Trail. Investigators say if new leads develop, they'll search again. Meantime, his family and his law firm in Dallas say they will continue to search until he's back home. Another North Texas city will weigh the future of public transportation. The town of Addison and its council is considering holding a special election for residents to decide on DART membership. Addison has been a member city since 1983 and has a stop on the brand new Silver Line. Meantime, 4 other areas in North Texas have already decided to let voters weigh in on the future of DART. This comes after leaders in Plano, Highland Park, Farmers Branch, and Irving say they're not getting their money's worth from the transit system. 62 years ago, President John F. Kennedy was assassinated in downtown Dallas. Now, decades later, we're getting a look at newly discovered documents tied to the assassination that have been left untouched for years. Here is senior crime and justice reporter Rebecca Lopez.
Okay, gotcha. Inside a locked room at DPD headquarters, behind rows of boxes and evidence, sit pieces of history untouched for years. The Dallas Police Department allowed WFAA a rare look at documents recently discovered in their archives tied to the assassination of President John F. Kennedy.
At 11:35, he arrived in Dallas. At 12:35, he was shot, and an hour later was pronounced dead.
Each discovery sheds new light on the chaos that followed November 22nd, 1963.
President Kennedy and Governor John Connally have been cut down by assassins' bullets in downtown Dallas.
There's a letter from WFAA on the cool letterhead, which caught our eye when we were going through it.
Officers uncovered long-lost letters, including correspondence between WFAA and the Dallas Police Department, written just 2 years after the assassination.
And then we have 2 letters from WFAA. One was sent to Lieutenant George Butler.
One of the letters was written by legendary WFAA photojournalist and news director Bert Shipp, who had been at Parkland Hospital that day filming the aftermath as the president fought for his life.
This is what I've been told now, Jay. President was shot in the head, Connally was shot in the chest. Both of them are still alive when I left the hospital.
The archive includes onion-skinned copies of SHIP's 1965 request to interview Lieutenant George Butler about unanswered questions surrounding Lee Harvey Oswald and the Warren Commission.
Second page is, I assure you this will in no way present anything that will create dissension between citizens and law enforcement.
Some of the material was not here originally. Nearly 25 years ago, police raided a home in Dallas and found boxes of JFK-related documents, photos, and personal items, later turned over to the department.
We'll find this random stuff or somebody will have had it somewhere.
They also found a piece of evidence from Jack Ruby, the man who killed Lee Harvey Oswald, the president's assassin. A shell casing is just one of the dozens of artifacts discovered as DPD continues looking through boxes to display at their police museum.
Going through a bunch of boxes, found, first of all, a shell casing that was actually from Jack Ruby's pistol. I guess they test fired it at some point. And I pull it out here, and there it is.
There was a lot of speculation surrounding Oswald and his death. One of the most controversial chapters in the Kennedy assassination was when Oswald's body was exhumed 20 years after he killed the president. We spoke to the attorney who represented Marina Oswald, Lee Harvey's wife.
A guy named Michael Eddowes had written a book saying that it was not Lee Harvey Oswald in the grave, but a Russian spy. And she wanted it established that that was not true.
Work started before dawn to dig up the grave of Lee Harvey Oswald.
He filed suit, assembled a forensic team, and opened the casket to put the rumors to rest.
I put together a forensic team, went with them into the autopsy room, and we autopsied him, and it was definitely him.
Oswald was re-examined at Baylor, then reburied at Rose Hill Cemetery in an unmarked grave. And even the attorney was struck by one detail that remains a mystery.
He was mostly skeletonized, but I thought it was bizarre he was wearing a ruby ring.
But did he die wearing it, or was it placed on his finger before he was buried?
Well, I have no idea, other than the only person I could think of with that last name was Jack Ruby.
From Bert Shipp's letters to a shell casing from Jack Ruby's gun to Oswald's ring, Dallas police say they continue to find pieces of history tucked away in archives, old homes, and forgotten boxes. And each discovery adds another clue to a story that still fascinates the nation. In Dallas, I'm Rebecca Lopez.
And those are your headlines from North Texas.